We'll just, okay, so I think we're ready to go. So I really wanted to do this video just because I had a shower thought on why girls gain weight in recovery, because so many girls that end up finding my Instagram or finding my YouTube or that I meet out in society have this fear of gaining weight, and they want more information. And I think that there's a lot to be said on the emotional side of why we end up gaining weight through recovery, because we've talked a lot, just the two of us, Mishi, about how scientifically what happens to our body when we gain weight. And I think that that's something that's covered a lot, but I kind of wanted to attack it today from the healing of our relationship with food.
Yeah.
And why that ends up causing us to gain weight. So that's kind of where I wanted to go today, and we'll see where it takes us. So Mishi, you have you work with the HA Society,
I do.
and you are running a segment through their podcast called um Rose. Oh, it was so good. Help me with it. What are the Rose all day? Rose,
No.
yes, okay. So I'll
Rose
make sure I
way.
that.
Yes. So I work with both Danny and Ashley at the HA Society, and we all have our personal accounts. So mine just happens to be Rose Way.
I like that. It flows nice.
It does. And it's like a play on like my maiden name. So yeah.
That's a lot better than what my maiden name was. I wanted to get rid of that as fast as I could. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess I still own my maiden name and I really want to get rid of it as fast as possible because it's like 10 letters long. And I would prefer to just like write Garcia versus Rosencrantz.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I get that. Nobody ever knew how to say mine. That was my issue. But yeah, so I had heard your story on the HA podcast, and it really, to me, I felt like this would be a topic that you also would have a lot to say about it, because we went through such experiences of extreme with food rules and healing from our relationships with food. So I have a lot of opinions, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about healing the relationship with food and why it ends up leading to weight gain and what you have to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, kind of like Abby said, I just had like a really terrible relationship with food. I came from like a really clean eating, like orthorexic background. I had a lot of rules around food. Food had a lot of control over me. Let's just put it that way. And so I I also have a lot of very strong opinions about you know, giving ourselves like unconditional permission to eat and just like legitimately dropping all food rules, even the ones that we think are really supportive of us. And that was like really, really hard for me to do as well. Like, especially, like I'm like at every single meal, I need to have a protein, fat, and carbohydrate. I can't just have like a carbohydrate. Like,
Right.
so I had to legitimately let go of all food rules. And I really had to allow myself that unconditional just permission to eat. And like, that was more for my mental health than anything else.
Right.
And I call it like soul deep nourishment. Like so much of my soul needed to be nourished. And like, I just needed to feel joy. I needed to feel pleasure. Like food was so transactional before. And I I had restricted for so long. I don't know the last time that I had not restricted or had, guilt associated to food or things of that nature. And so there was a lot of making up that I had to do. And so yeah, like I said, I call it like soul deep nourishment. And of course, for so many reasons, when you're coming from a restricted state and you start to nourish yourself, regardless of what that nourishment looks like, yes, you are going to gain weight. And also like if you're when we're coming from a restricted state, we're already primed to hold on to weight, because our body
Right.
is in that place of it's not using energy well, because it's trying to conserve energy, and it has no idea if you're going to go back into a famine tomorrow or not. So when
Right.
things are coming in, it's storing all of that as like energy for later. And the only reason why we even think that, putting on weight in this process is bad is because we've been conditioned to believe that it's bad. We've always associated health with losing weight, and gaining weight with being unhealthy. And so, yeah, give yourselves lots of compassion when you're coming up against like these thoughts when you're going through this process, because it's everywhere and it's so predominant in our society, and it's like hammered into our brains to think that way. But I don't know. I've waffled on a bit, so I'd love to.
No, 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 no. I love that. Thank you. Because it's so true. Part of my journey was I read the book Intuitive Eating because I had talked to Danny, who in my journey was telling me like, yes, you have to do certain things to kind of build that safety back, but then it starts to become something you're working towards more of an intuitive eating
Mhm.
mentality. And then, me, all extreme, I'm like, okay, let me get this book and figure out what I'm going to be like. And it really did go through different steps of letting go of food rules and everything else. But the idea of moderation was extremely difficult for me. I had no idea how to eat in moderation. In fact, one of my goals for over a year and a half was just, can I do moderation? Like what is it? What does it look like? How does it feel? And I had to really get out of that scarcity mindset of the food's going to be gone. The food is going to be gone. I need to enjoy it now. It's never coming back. And that mentality with it, I couldn't move on with recovery until I had actually fixed that part. Because if you get your period back, but you're still thinking about the food being a scarcity thing that you can or can't have, it delays it. I don't think that I would have fully recovered had I
Yeah.
not gotten rid of that.
Yeah, and that's where it's like that soul deep nourishment where you really need to nurture that side of you, that scarcity piece, and just show yourself like, food is of abundant. Like food is not in scarcity. Specifically, whatever the food was, a few things came up when you were saying that about like being able to moderate food. Like, because once you start cutting your calories and you get to a low point, you then like a really low point, you then start putting on weight. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
I cannot cut calories any further than this, like,
Right.
or I'm going to die. And then, so I was kind of like, I was in HA, but I was also getting to that point where I was starting to put on weight, and I was at the lowest amount of calories I had ever been. And so, like,
Yes.
I had made this like little chart for myself of like, I don't remember all of the things, but and it was like, if I achieve a thing, I could put a star on. And so it was the act of like doing something and rewarding myself, right?
Yes.
I can't remember the entirety of like why I was doing that.
I
Like
had a check it. I had a checklist too. You know how
it
I am
was,
about lists. I
well,
love
yeah,
a list.
it was like a behavior change thing, because I
Yeah,
thought
like a
that
behavior chart.
I
Yeah.
had I had like a problem because I couldn't moderate myself around food. And so I was like, I need to be able to eat to 80% full, because this is what everybody talks about. You need to be able to,
Right.
like, you shouldn't eat to satiety. You should only eat to 80% full. And so that was one of the things on the list, was like, I would put a star next to any time that I could just stop myself before I got like overly full. And so, of course, like, food is going to seem like it's in scarcity when you're thinking like that. And also, I think I was telling you this at the retreat as well, like, or maybe I didn't, I don't know. But anyways, I always used to tell people that the reason why I can't like control myself around food is because I grew up poor. And so I just like never knew when food was going to be around. And like, I mean, there's not really a lot of truth to that, because I always had food on the table. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I get it.
but in my head, I was just like, I just never know. Like, I'm always trying to like take free food, especially like in college when you'd go to events that are free food. I
Yes.
felt like I
Oh,
was like
definitely.
always trying to like take all of the free food, and I attributed that all of those experiences of being like a poor college student, being like low income growing up. This is
Yeah.
why I have these behaviors around food. It has nothing to do with my relationship with food at all. In all actuality, yeah, it actually does. And like, it is so crazy to me still to this day. Like, I literally cannot believe it, because I used to be like, have no control of myself specifically around sweets. Other foods,
Yes.
yeah, but sweets, when it came to sweets like chocolate or anything like that, I had no control
Yes.
over it. And I just, so anyway, I thought I was addicted to them, right? And so
Yes. So
anyways,
then you started attacking it from like a sugar addiction mentality, started researching on that. And
oh yeah, going down
bless it.
all of the
Yeah.
rabbit holes of like why I feel that even going into the science of why our bodies are doing XYZ, whatever. Did it
I
all.
understand. Did it all. I had when I was growing up, my mom was a fantastic cook. So we always had leftovers and we always had dessert because I half German. So we always had dessert every night after dinner. You would think
Oh,
desserts are first
German
for Germans,
chocolate
but
cake is
all the time. Yeah, we
so
had all
good.
kinds of stuff. But you know what we didn't have in my house a lot of was fruit because my mom didn't really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we would have fruit like strawberries, grapes, raspberries, I could not like I would want to put down the whole thing of grapes in one sitting. That same
Mm-hmm.
mentality, not that I didn't have that issue with sugar as well, but I noticed that I even had a problem with fruit when I got on my own because my mom like she just wouldn't buy a lot of it. And so she'd be like, "Oh, wait, that's lasting us the week here. Where I'm not going to the grocery store again." And so I was a little bit like freaked out about how many grapes I was eating and stuff. And I found that that was one of those food rules that I had to break later on. I had to buy a lot of fruit and be like, you can have fruit. It's not a problem. Because then I started saying, well, oh, fruit's just as bad as a piece of candy or cake anyway. It's all sugar. And there I went
Mm-hmm.
down that rabbit hole. So
Oh
I get,
gosh, I went down that rabbit hole too. And like, I
yeah.
think some of these like um food fears or whatever rules that we have around food, some deriving from our parents with uh like the thing with your mom going to the grocery store, like, yo, I'm not about to go I literally went today, you guys ate me out of house and home. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's some of those comments aren't from like diet culture or anything like that. It's
Some of
more of
it's
just
just,
like we need to keep this house afloat, you guys. We got to make this stuff last. And but yeah, in as a
yeah.
child, we don't have the context to understand that and wrap our heads around it, and it does create a bit of scarcity. But like, my thing with like chocolate and sweets, like when I went through recovery and I gave myself that unconditional permission to just eat
Yeah.
whatever I wanted without adding without having like some like lunch meat to go with my cookie, because I'm like, I have to balance my blood sugar. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna have the cookie because I want the cookie or the ice cream or like whatever it is. And now I'm on the other side, like a trip. And a lot of it, I do attribute it to being like just more in a fully nourished state, but also because I kind of like faced that scarcity mindset. I showed myself that this is always available to me. I can have a cookie any time of the day I want to. I can have a
Yeah.
cookie at midnight. I can have one for breakfast. Like, it's always available to me, and there is no scarcity. And
And after that's healed, it stops becoming an issue. It stops
yeah.
becoming an obsession. It stops becoming something that I can't moderate anymore.
Oh, 100%. Like, I literally, uh I'm so shocked that we have Girl Scout cookies in the house, because the
Those were,
fact
oh,
that they're not like gluten-free, sugar-free, whatever free cookies, like just all the orthorexia things, just the
oh
fact that
yeah.
Girl Scout cookies are sitting in our cupboard, and all of the flavors, because my husband, he's from Canada, and I guess he just doesn't know about Girl Scout cookies, and so he was just like, I just ordered them all because I didn't know the popular ones. Anyways,
Oh,
Well, I
Some
mean,
little girl's so happy from him.
I know, right?
Probably got the
And
free
like,
t-shirt.
exactly. But like they've been sitting in there, no joke, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. And I think I've eaten like 4 Thin Mints when before I literally could eat the entire box in one sitting.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I like those cookies do not faze me. I'm not like thinking about them. Like I need to get them out of my house. Like I used to do, like health coaching prior to coaching AJ, and probably I also coached a lot of people into disordered eating, sadly.
Yeah.
But I used to tell my clients like just don't have it in the house. That's how we solve the problem. Or put it in the freezer. Like then
Yeah.
you have to wait for it to thaw out, and hopefully by the time it thaws out, you just don't want it anymore. And so it was just like
Yes.
don't work on the relationship with your food, just don't have it around.
Take it
And
away so that you can't see it, out of sight, out of mind, and it'll be fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so crazy. But yeah, allowing yourself just like that unconditional permission to just have these things. And yeah, weight gain is probably going to be a byproduct of that. But you know what? Later down the road, your weight is going to be more stable. Will
It
be
will be.
able to
Yes.
maintain your weight because you're not in this yo-yo. You're not like, oh my gosh, I just binged an entire box of Girl Scout cookies, so now I'm going to fast for 3 days. And you're going to be
Nope.
on this just up and down. And your body does not respond well to that. When you are binge restrict, like your body is going to start to like you're just wrecking your metabolism in essence.
And then anything you eat, it stays.
Ex
And so especially like
exactly.
if you look at the older generations, like my parents' age, the women struggling with their weight through menopause and all of that, some of them had been in menopause for years and didn't even realize it with birth control pills and everything else, and then continuing this kind of diet mentality. It just they can't maintain a healthy weight and a healthy mindset now. I watch so many relatives that struggle with that.
Yeah,
And
I just went out to dinner with a couple. We'd have like a dinner or supper club or in Florida, and it's like people are all different ages, like 60, 30, 40, whatever. And these two women are going through menopause, and they're all talking about fasting, and they're all talking about dieting, and it's just like, man, I am so glad I've gone through this now because I don't want to be in menopause where, yeah, their hormones are definitely changing and things are happening and they're trying to grasp onto the control. If they never repair their relationship with food, and they're always going to be in this back and forth because like I said, never changed their relationship with food, and
yeah,
they never ever got into a place of like balanced hormones. They're always were probably all over the place or non-existent because most women were on birth control. So it is really sad, and kind of like full circle, like yeah, it sucks right now in the moment of doing this really healing work and the weight gain and doing all of those things, but you're going to be set up in a much better place metabolically, mentally, physically
yeah,
later down the
bone
road,
density, all of it.
like all of
Definitely.
the things. And so,
We're talking
yeah,
about the long game. The long game.
exactly. And so many people, you can only, especially when you're in a survival state, you can only see the right now, what's happening now, and you can't really conceptualize the long game. And I think in fairness, though, a lot of women, I mean, we're not talking about menopause, but a lot of
Right.
women just think that menopause is supposed to be terrible and all of the things. So like
Right.
you
Right.
wouldn't even know the difference if you didn't fix it now and you got there. You just be like, well, this is what it's supposed to be. But we're telling you right now it's not.
It doesn't have to be that way
Yeah.
if you fix the relationships now. And just because you push it off now because maybe you don't want to have a baby, don't want to have a period, pushing it off, it just creates more and more issues with every area of your health as you go.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And yeah. And so the long and the short here is like, really in order to to lose or maintain weight or to be in a healthy state, like you have to probably, well, yeah,
that relationship.
you're gonna have to repair that relationship. And a byproduct of that is going to be some weight gain. And like, it's not a bad thing. It's the way the body is creating safety. And it's like, if you feel the discomfort, then that's your invite. The discomfort is inviting you to look at the parts of you that need healing, that need this attention.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot of mental and emotional work, and being able to have all of the hormones to do that is going to be helpful in this time. So nourish yourself unconditionally. Yeah.
Have a little bit of fun with it. Like, I think I went on a time period where I went and tried every single thing. I did it for about 6 months. I tried a whole bunch of foods that had scared me. Like, I went on a date night and we purposely got a banana split because I'd never had a banana split. I'd never let myself have a banana split. It was too big. So we went and had banana splits in my recovery. And then I did one night of s'mores, and we like got a little, one of those like little lighter things that you can
Mm-hmm,
have. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
we roasted our own marshmallows and we made s'mores. And I mean, like it was a bonding experience because it was date night,
Yeah.
but it really has helped me move on because it was something that I just couldn't think about for so long. So,
Yeah, and that's why I call it soul deep nourishment, because like
right.
those are parts of like your soul. Like I'm sure there's a little Abby somewhere that was just like, I just really wanted a banana split, like,
I did.
and
I
I
really
couldn't
did.
have it. Or like you wanted s'mores. Like gosh, that is such a traditional like and fun thing to do. I can't tell you how many camping trips or like opportunities I turned down s'mores because of like my
Because of that,
relationship. Yeah.
already when you were little, me too. We were talking about the Girl Scout cookies, and I started thinking about myself as a Girl Scout, and I was like, oh, well, I could have the marshmallow, the graham cracker, or the chocolate, but I can't have them all. What do you
Mm-hmm.
really
And
want? You get one.
it's so sad. And I will say, shoot, I had a thought that popped into my head and then it went away. It was gonna be a really good. Oh, here it is. I used to think that like I don't know, food just had such a hold over me. And when I started to actually allow myself that unconditional permission, kind of like you, having the banana split, having the s'mores, like I demonized so many foods that I hadn't even actually tried probably before. And yeah, just like me and my husband, like I would make it a point to be like, okay, when we're going out, I'm going to have a croissant, I'm going to have a scone, doing all of these things. And I'm like, that also allowed me to be like, you know what? I actually really don't like croissants. I actually really don't like this thing. And it no longer has that hold on me anymore. And so now I can choose foods with discernment. And so, like I was saying earlier, of how I thought that food just, or sweets in particular, like chocolate and things like that, had a lot of control over me. When I actually allowed myself to nourish myself with those foods and eat them in abundance, I realized I'm like, just why the Girl Scout cookies are still sitting there. I actually really don't like them. Of course I can have it and be like, oh, this tastes great, but I'm not going to go out of my way to go get one. And so,
Tiramisu. I'm that way with tiramisu. Like everybody talks. No, I don't. I'm
yeah,
not a coffee kind of person with tiramisu. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, now with all sweets, it's kind of sometimes sad. We were just in like Quebec or something in the winter time, and I'm like, oh, it would be so fun to have some hot chocolate right now. And I got a sip, and I was like, oh, that's not for
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah. Just
I
not
was like,
feeling it.
dang it, I want to be these people carrying around hot chocolate in the winter. And so, I mean, anyways, that was kind of like a side
Know
tangent,
thyself.
but like
Know thyself. That's all.
exactly. And so you just have like a little bit more discernment, and just food is just like food. It's not like a big deal anymore. It doesn't take up all this capacity in your brain.
Yeah. Well, Mishi, thank you so much for coming on, and just I'm hoping that some girl somewhere is going to find this and it's going to answer some part of what's holding her back, and she's going to be a better person just because of us shooting this here. So thank you so
I
much.
I have no doubts. I have no doubts. Yeah. I appreciate it that you invited me on. I love having these chit chats.
Thanks. So now I have to figure out how to stop recording. Um,
Just push that button down there.
End, like hang up on you. Oh wait,
No.
stop recording.